Nice.
Well, we're glad you remembered us.
Oh, of course. How are you doing?
Good. We're going to start at 8:05. We're going to give an extra 5 minutes for people to get their coffee. That Julie Casal out there?
Hi, it is. Good morning.
Good to have a city commissioner with us.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for including me.
One of the perks of the office, Julie.
Yes, that's great. How are you doing?
We are going to start at 8:05. Just give
Okay, fabulous. Thank you.
So this is kind of like a party line, what we used to call it.
Yeah,
right.
with pictures. I think that's in the works.
Sending our avatar and
Kim Beckett, good morning. David has joined us, I think. Mm. $26. Yeah. Stephanie, do you think we have a quorum and we should start? You have to unmute first.
I did. I said we have 28, so I think that's enough to be getting on with.
I think so. All right, well, I will open this, I guess. You see the agenda before us, and we have a number of our partners who will be speaking. And of course, we are thankful for that. I think this morning is a very special Friday.
I got a lot to do when I get home.
Somebody needs to mute.
Chicken and eggs.
Yeah. Do we have any green peppers?
No.
Okay. Somebody needs to mute their phone.
I'll be right back. Check and see how many eggs we have.
Rich Pollock, can you mute your phone? Okay. So, starting again. I'm Jim Chard, and sort of a co-host with the Friday Forums with David Beal, who is also on this morning. And I think this is a very special presentation this morning for lots of reasons. One of the primary ones is this is the first time that we've had a local business speaking. We've had a number of very interesting public speakers and public officials like Ann Gannon last month and the head of elections for Palm Beach County. But this morning we're going to have Gary Eliopoulos, whom I think many of you know. So my introduction of him will be very brief. But he is going to be speaking about a company that he works with and has worked with for perhaps upwards of 30 years, and that's Ocean Properties, which I'm delighted that we're going to hear about today because I think it's one of those hidden gems in Delray that some of us know about, but many of us don't. This is a multi-billion-dollar corporation with their corporate headquarters in Delray that has a presence in the hotel industry all over the country, and you could also say a little bit of all over the globe because they also have hotels in Canada. And they are a local family, the Walsh family, that live in Delray. Their children have gone to school in Delray, and yet they take a very low profile. And I think for those of you who are unfamiliar with them, you will be amazed that when Gary starts giving the background of the company and what they've done. We also have well, everybody knows that the Marriott on A1A is the premier property here in Delray for Ocean Properties, and we have a new manager, Julie Phillips, who's going to be introduced by Gary and speak. And it is also being renamed the Opal Grand, and I think Gary can get into some of the background on the renaming and repositioning. But just briefly about Gary, longtime architect here in Delray, has a number of claims to fame, one of which is he preserves historic houses. And I think you told me, Gary, maybe 6 you've preserved?
10.
10 here in the city, one of which I'm very interested in because it's an old Sears Roebuck house. I think many of the sort of more senior people on this call probably remember that you could order a kit from Sears Roebuck for a house many, many years ago. And he has preserved at least one of those here in Delray.
Yes.
And he was also on the city commission, so we have that bond. And he also appeared before me a number of times when I was in the SPRAD board. And it's always a pleasure to deal with Gary and listen to his ideas and what he has to say. So we are sharing one computer here. It's kind of awkward, but we don't want the noisy feedback. So let me just move this.
Switch it to the presentation.
And I will switch it to the presentation if I can grab this chair. Okay. Is that the first one? That's not the first one.
That's not the first one. Go back up.
Okay.
Is that what you're doing?
Should. It doesn't. Let's see. How do we do this? There we go.
Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jim. Am I on the screen? I guess it doesn't matter. As Jim said, my name is Gary Eliopoulos. I came here to Delray Beach in 1985. I worked for a firm, Bob Curry, who sadly passed away last year, but that's how I got started in Delray Beach, was working for his firm. We also had his newest and biggest client at the time, which was Ocean Properties. The project in '85 had just been completed, which was the Holiday Inn Hotel, which is now what we are calling the Opal Grand. A lot of people thought that the original hotel is still there, which was a historic structure that was built in the early 1900s, but that actual structure did get taken down. A little bit more about our company. As Jim said, we are a firm. We're locally in Delray Beach. It's GE Architecture. After I worked with Bob Curry for 3 years, I did leave and I went to the Virgin Islands. I was down there just long enough to meet my wife, and we came back up here, and we actually both worked for Ocean Properties for approximately 5 years. I was their in-house, or one of their in-house architects. After that, I actually joined back up with Bob Curry and Jess Sowards, and we formed the Curry Partnership. We did that for 5 years, and it was basically in '97 that I went on my own. It's been a great run here in Delray Beach, and I really can't think of enough nice things to say about my affiliation with Ocean Properties. The first project I worked on at Bob Curry's office was the Tiki Bar, which was at the original Holiday Inn. That was in '85, and it was located just on the corner of A1A and Atlantic. Since then, we've done a lot of projects together, and I think Jim's right. It's important to know who they are. There's a lot of confusion out there even about what Opal Grand is. Most people are coming up to me saying, wow, that must be a new product from the Marriott. It actually is, in fact, a product of Ocean Properties. It is part of their Opal collection. So what I'm going to do real quickly is go through some of the projects that they have that are throughout the country. As Jim said, they're all over America and up in North America, Canada. So these are just going to be some select few for you guys to see a little bit of what they have. Some I'll talk a little bit more because we were actually directly involved with them. This first one that should be on your screen is called the Hutchinson Shores Resort and Spa. This was interesting in the fact that Wayne Huizinga owned this property. The original, what I'd call tower, which is basically running parallel with the ocean, was a Holiday Inn. It was built in 1970. It actually got destroyed during Hurricane Francis. It was shortly after that that Ocean Properties came in. It was all boarded up, and they bought it from Wayne Huizinga. The issue with this property was that the entrance, which you're seeing, the covered porte-cochere, is actually at what we call a finished elevation of 3 feet. That's 3 feet above the sea level. They're in what they call a high velocity zone, and the actual finished floor should be at 12 feet. So with the partnership of Martin County and the state, Ocean Properties was able to not only renovate the building, but also add 2 swimming pools, one for the ocean side, one for the west side. They have banquet facilities, restaurants, and clubs. So it's been quite successful, and I think it opened up in 2017. The next project here is the Jupiter Beach Resort, another project that Ocean Properties purchased, totally renovated. They actually used one of our local architects, Roger Cope, to renovate this one. This next slide is a picture of Sunset Key. This is one of the jewels of Ocean Properties. It is tied to the mainland hotel, Margaritaville, but this particular island, they purchased in the early 90s. It was totally undeveloped. They have guest cottages, all obviously designed in a Key West style. We also did a 10,000 square foot restaurant and health spa on the property. And then they have approximately 60 lots that have been reserved for private residents for custom homes, which Ocean Properties has been involved in developing all of those. This next shot is looking right at the end of Duval Street. This is their Margaritaville Key West Hotel. This shot was taken last week. Obviously, no issues with the pandemic down there. You know, this hotel is fantastic. It was originally a Hilton, also built in the 90s from scratch with Ocean Properties. Now, as we go up the coast, we have Key Largo. This is their Key Largo Marriott. Another one that they totally renovated and turned it into quite the gem for the Gulf Coast. The next one is Longboat Key. This is a more recent purchase. This is a large resort area that actually has multiple buildings on it. There's actually a combination of 4,500 condo hotel suites. Ocean Properties is in the process right now of renovating most of these buildings and developing a country club for the residents there. I mentioned the Opal Grand, obviously, in the beginning. This is Opal Sands Resort. So what Ocean Properties is basically doing now, they are actually starting their own line, their own franchise, if you will. I should say franchise because it will only be owned and run by them. But it is their product. It is the Opal Collection. It was approximately around 10 years ago that Ocean Properties started investing heavily over in the West Coast and especially in the Clearwater Beach area. Clearwater has been voted as the best beach in the country several times now, and Ocean Properties is adding to that beauty. This contemporary hotel, they actually did build from scratch. Another one of their products is also in Clearwater, and this is the Sand Pearl Resort. Another one that they totally renovated and updated for this new look that they're providing. Here's an aerial shot of the pool area. And this is a shot of the back entry. Another one just south of Clearwater in Naples is another area where they're investing in, called the Edgewater Beach Hotel. This one also was totally renovated from top to bottom. Up in Canada, there are several hotels they have up there. This particular one was the first. It is the Westin in downtown Montreal. It's the historic part of Montreal, and this building was formerly known as the Gazette. It was a news office building. Due to being in the historic district, anybody that's familiar with those, the entire exterior skin of the hotel had to be maintained, and the entire renovation occurred on the inside, converting what was an office building into hotel suites. This next one is in Salt Lake City. It is obviously a Marriott. This one's interesting in the fact that, as some of you may know, Marriott is owned by the Mormons. Mormons are based in Utah. This actually was in downtown Salt Lake City. It was an RFP that the city did for one of their prime properties, and the program was really revolved around the Winter Olympics. It had to be developed and built before it. Ocean Properties is obviously proud to state that they actually beat the Mormons out in Utah, their own state, for this project, and they delivered the project on time for the 2002 Winter Games. This is another jewel of the Ocean Properties hotels. This is Wentworth by the Sea. This was built in 1887. It was a historic structure, obviously, and unfortunately, I believe it was in 1982 that it basically closed up, got boarded up for over 20 years. Nobody could do anything with it. As Jim mentioned, Ocean Properties corporate headquarters is down here in Florida, but they also have another headquarters in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which is right down the street from this hotel. They were the perfect fit for this. They came in and they established a relationship not only with the state, but also with FDOT. What happened was the roads, actually the main road to this hotel went on the back side of the hotel. That's where you would have, the loading docks, the kitchens, things like that. Ocean Properties was able to work with the state and divide the road so that a more private entrance could be created along the front of this hotel, making this for an incredible project. I would highly recommend, if anybody's up in the New England area, to stay there because it's just a magnificent scene. This one right here is in Bar Harbor, Maine. If anybody's familiar with Ocean Properties, they will realize that Bar Harbor is one of their premier locations where they have several hotels. This particular one is one of my favorite. It's called West Street Hotel. It is also one of the Opal collections. I like it for the fact that I had the opportunity to work with Tom Walsh, the founder of Ocean Properties, on this hotel. What happened was basically they have the Bayside Hotel, which is not seen in this photograph, but it's right off to the right-hand side. Anybody who knew Tom Walsh knew that he started very early in the morning. So every morning at 4 in the morning, he would meet me in the lobby of the hotel. I would have my laptop and I'd be designing this property. Now, the portion that he owned was to the far right. It's almost like a rust color. And Tom would come in and he would ask me what I had designed so far. And I would tell him that I designed approximately 30 rooms for a hotel. And he would basically shake his head and say, that's not enough. He would leave. He'd come back by the end of the day, and all of a sudden there's another section of this hotel, which is probably like 5 or 6 more bays. He'd say, I just bought this property. How many rooms can you get? And sure enough, I would design the next night a hotel and maybe 60 rooms. It was never enough. And the entire week he spent buying up that whole block. As you can see, it is in the downtown historic Bar Harbor. They made us design the building so that it looked like it occurred over time. So each section is designed differently, but was actually all built at the same time. What you don't see, but it's there, is they have a rooftop pool. So along the west side of this hotel on the roof is their pool. The background is what they call Cadillac Mountain. It's just a gorgeous setting looking out at the harbor. This is the Somerset Resort. This is in Rockport, Maine. For those who know golf, this is known as the Pebble Beach of the East. Again, another gorgeous setting. They are right on the ocean with their golf course surrounding the entire property. Just one of those places that when you go there, you don't want to leave. Another one of their historic structures, this is the Sagamore. This is actually in New York. Also built in the late 1800s. Another one that had been boarded up. Ocean Properties came along and just totally renovated it. We have another shot of it where this is on a lake right around this island. It's just a beautiful setting again. This is also part of their Opal collection. Right here, we have the Lake Placid Lodge. This would be truly what you would consider a boutique hotel. There are 30 rooms, and they have 17 cottages along the water. It's again, a nice setting around Lake George and the Adirondack Mountains. It's just incredible. So if you ever wanted to go stay up there in a lodge setting, this would be the place. So today, we are here to introduce you to what is now what everybody's been seeing as the Opal Grand. Again, this is the Opal collection that Ocean Properties has started. One of the things that happened when we started designing the new look for the hotel was that a lot of people did think this hotel that you're seeing in this photo, the shot was taken in 1978, but the actual hotel was built in the early 20s, actually the year before the Colony was built. The issue was this: in the late 70s, when the Walshes bought this property, they did try to renovate it. The electric grid just could not support having AC units for this. And as you can see, the hotel, although it has a nice charm to it, you really don't believe or think it would ever be right directly on the ocean. You know, none of the rooms were really designed with the porches and balconies that you'd want to see in a today's setting. And so what happened was, in 1980, the hotel was knocked down. Unfortunately, we don't have a picture of the Holiday Inn Camino Real, but it was built in 1983. The entrance was right off of Atlantic. Some of you, if you're familiar with Delray Beach, back then at the same time they were building the Holiday Inn on Glades Road in I-95. It had a ship in it. It was called the Bounty Ship. So when you went to that hotel, inside the lounge, there was actually the ship that was historically built based on the original Bounty. So the Holiday Inn Camino Real also had a Bounty ship in it. This next slide is what you saw a couple of years ago. This was the Marriott, as we all know it to be. What happened was the main tower along the south side was the original Holiday Inn. Again, Ocean Properties did a joint venture with the city. The north portion property was actually divided. They expanded the Marriott to have meeting rooms, more guest suites. And then if you ever have been over to the Marriott, the north side of the parking lot is actually city parking. The other portion of this property, which is the northwest corner, is actually our current fire station. That was part of this property that Ocean Properties worked up a deal so that the city could have a fire station along this area. Master planning. We started working on changing the Marriott back in 2008. We got our approvals for a lot of the things that you're starting to see back in 2010. That involved a master plan where we expanded the north pool deck areas. In this shot right here, along the lower left-hand side, those are two-story townhouse villas that we did. Those got completed in 2014. This next shot is what a lot of you are starting to see right now, which is the new look of the Opal Grand. This is the south elevation. A lot of people have been asking us what's going on right now along the south side because there's this steel structure. That's actually going to be a restaurant. Here's a blow up of what we're proposing. So it has all outdoor dining, and it's going to feature an event deck on the upper level. And then as you can see here, this will be another expansion of this hotel along the left-hand side of this photo, and I'll zoom in. This is actually on the corner of Atlantic and Andrews. It's an additional 32 rooms, and the ground floor has approximately 4,500 square feet of retail. Again, these were all approved back in 2010. The only part on this one that hadn't been approved by the city yet is actually the new look. The original look that got approved was the Mediterranean that we all were familiar with the past couple years. This is a plan of that proposed area. So along the left-hand side of this shot is that future expansion, but the highlighted portion is actually the restaurant. The new restaurant is 4,500 square feet, and it will also give us a new entrance to the south portion of our hotel. Here's a nice shot of a rendering that we've projected for what the inside will be with. We've actually teamed up with IDDI. They are the interior designers that actually did our iPic theater. Another shot. The whole theme of the restaurant and interior is going to be a contemporary nautical theme. You can see right here in this shot, the columns we're going to be wrapping with heavy shipyard rope to give that nautical feel. We're going to have all these doors open onto the terraces that wrap around the restaurant with the nano wall system. So you'll have that indoor, outdoor feeling, and obviously inviting the pedestrians along the avenue. This plan right here is what we're proposing for the new lobby renovation. We've actually submitted for the building permit for the interiors now. It's hard to see, but right along, oh, never mind that. Let me go back one. Right along the lower right-hand side is where the existing main entrance is. When you come into the hotel, there's an existing octagon shape of columns. We're actually removing all of that. We're creating all these curved walls. These are going to be water walls. So we're going to have a large fountain in the center that will raise up out of the floor. And as you can see, the floors are all going to be done in a terrazzo. It's actually going to be more of like a sand approach, so to give you this beach feeling. We're going to have a new event room, which will be next to the main lobby. And those that are familiar with the Marriott, there's a courtyard in the center with the glass elevators. We will be enclosing that. There'll be a new glass skylight roof above it that will open up that bar for the rest of the hotel. And that will also lead to the left side, which will also be our new restaurant that is running along Atlantic. Here are some shots you can see in the main entrance. We will have a clear story above that of glass to bring light in. Again, you're seeing how the columns are all going to be featured with this nautical theme. And you can see the curved walls around the center fountain featuring all the water walls. As you walk down towards the new restaurant, we have all these decorative actual electric light lanterns, but will look like candles. We're creating these open walls that have them lighting up the hallways and creating a lot of what we call green walls to soften the feeling as you walk through the hotel. Again, you can see the terrazzo floors. Some of you may have noticed on the exterior of the elevations, we have a decorative palm, if you will, running up the side of the building. We will also be featuring that as one of our themes in the terrazzo floors, which is shown right here in the lower right-hand corner. This will be one of the interior bars. This is actually in that atrium that we will be enclosing with a glass skylight above. And there is what you are now starting to see as the final product of the Opal Grand. Again, this is kind of showing also what the restaurant will look like running along Atlantic Avenue. You know, everybody was familiar with the Marriott and they were familiar with Rick Consavage for many years representing Ocean Properties. Again, a great organization, but now we have a new leader, Julia Phillips. She has come in at a tough time. She'll be able to talk a little bit about it. Clearly, we are in the middle of a pandemic, and as she's come along, and we've totally renovated a hotel that she is trying to deal with the guests and make them happy. So with that, it is my pleasure to turn you over to Julia. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Gary. So yeah, my name is Julia, and I am fairly new to the company. Been with Ocean Properties since November of last year, and I was brought in because of my luxury background to really take the Opal brand into the next phase and to the next level of guest service. I'm so excited to be with the company. It really is such an honor to be with them and be part of this amazing project. But as Gary has mentioned, there's so much going on right now. In the short time that I've been with the company, I've already seen quite a lot of changes, the exterior being really the main one. And then on the inside, we've been working on the guest rooms. So lots going on there. We've also completed the main pool deck and made some changes to the interior of the pool as well, including the bar area. And then for the atrium and the lobby, that's the next big part of this project starting this month. So much going on. I've been in the industry for 22 years, been in the country for 22 years, originally from England. And all I've done is hotels. Most recently, I came from Orlando, working for a large resort as the GM up there. And due to a mutual contact with Ocean Properties, I was brought into the company. So this is my next venture, and very excited to be part of it.
Thank you, Julia.
Julia, thank you. And hopefully you'll be very active in the chamber. And,
Absolutely.
you know, that's one of our favorite locations. We have about 5 or 10 minutes before we bring on Chief Sims. And hopefully there's some questions out there. I know I have one question I'd like to, this is a serious question. There seems to be a recurring pattern where the Walshes identify properties that have been undermanaged or mismanaged or unsuccessful, and somehow through some magic turn that around. So could you talk a little bit about the business practices and the philosophies that are allowed that to happen over and over again?
Sure. So what Ocean Properties does have is also a management company. A lot of times they will look at properties, they'll evaluate them, and if they feel like they are being underutilized, they will actually take over and manage them for a short period of time. That period of time might be 5 years. It gives them a better idea of how the surrounding areas are, how they're developing, working with the local governments to see what is the future down the road of how this area is going to get developed. Tom Walsh, who was the founder of the company, truly had a knack for it. He literally would travel the country and look for things that he felt were going to be the next wave that people should be looking at to purchase. Again, the sons, as there is also a daughter, Susie, they have taken over from their dad, and now you're seeing the next generation of all their children working in the company. And again, it's looking at the management side. Once they evaluate a property, and let's say if it's 5 years, then they make that decision if they want to purchase it. So then they purchase it, and then they go into their renovations. So no, they definitely have it's amazing when you have a family-run, privately owned company that's a huge corporation, and they're able to maintain it with that family setting. And if anybody has the opportunity to meet the Walshes, you will realize when they meet you, they actually make you feel like you're a very important, special person. It's a gift that they got from their father. He had that knack. So yeah, it's one of those stories where you hear about them starting out in Bath, Maine with one little hotel motel and grew to this huge corporation.
It also seems like one of the keys is working with government. And whether it's environmental issues or transportation issues, they seem to work very closely with the local government, the state government, to get things changed and make progress. And you might want to talk about that a little bit and maybe reference specifically some of the things that have happened in Del Rey.
Okay. Well, a good example would be,
I think we're still
okay, a good example would be the Marriott. The Marriott, again, like I said, they started that in the late 70s. Everybody is seeing it evolving over time. I mentioned about their partnership with the city. There was a concern. Most people remember along the south west corner, along Andrews and Atlantic, there was a parking lot there. And when we came in for a proposal to do a new addition, a lot of people were concerned, saying that's city parking. That actually was parking that the Ocean Properties let the city use for 20 plus some odd years. Again, a partnership working with them. I've already mentioned that they did the deal with the fire station. So it's things like that. They work on a lot of other things in town that normally you don't hear about. We have Sandway by the Sea. That was a total major renovation several years ago that behind the scenes Ocean Properties did. You don't hear about it, they don't talk about it. And you'll find they are involved in things like that. We're doing several projects along Linton and I-95. We're working with FDOT there for them to expand. Again, they're doing a partnership there and helping them out, working with their land. So it is constant on their properties. I mentioned Sunset Key. Sunset Key was owned by the Navy Corps. You know, they purchased it from them. It was vacant. They had a tunnel that went underneath the channel and brought supplies up through this tunnel. I mean, it was just a constant deal where they're working with governments.
Now, I understand there are quite a few chat questions, if I can find chat here, like 19 of them.
Hopefully for Julia.
Is there an ETA on the final renovations on the hotel?
Okay. If I was to answer as Ocean Properties would want to answer, they would say 6 months. I'm not sure if that will happen, but they will work very aggressively to make sure that by the time the new season rolls around, that they have the majority of it done.
All right, let's see what else here. Lots of hellos. Okay, and some of our partners ready to speak. Our chairperson says, "Wow, beautiful." I don't know if she was talking about you or Julia or the hotel, but thank you, Irene. And Sarah Crane is asking road trip. Do you organize road trips to all these hotels?
Well, I would love to, and I'd love to be a part of it. But that you have to go through Julia.
Okay. Allison Turner is up for that road trip, and several other people. So, you know, that may be a whole new practice for you. We have another wow. The architect that designed the Opal Grand must have really did something.
He got lucky.
He got lucky. And can you ask when the lobby renovation will take place? There's a lot of questions as when, so it sounds like people are anxious for you to open. Is it possible we can close? Is that period?
I will ask Ocean Properties, and I'll go through Julia, and she can send it to you, Jim.
Okay, yeah. And
If people are interested in renting the meeting rooms or the event space, who do they talk to, Julia?
Yeah, you can reach out to me and I will direct them to our sales department.
Okay, lots of interest, I see.
Fantastic.
so if there are any other questions, if you could just unmute them. I think we've got maybe 5 minutes more. Is that it? No more questions? We do have one city commissioner out here. Does she have any questions about Opal Grand and what might come before her?
I think you said it was already approved. So is that correct? Will it be coming before us?
I don't believe we will be coming before you.
Is it the same sorry, is it the same footprint in terms of size?
It is the same footprint in terms of size of what was approved.
Right,
So if we do come before the city, it would only be for this new look that we've added to this new tower.
right, thank you.
Ocean Properties is constantly reevaluating themselves and their product. A good example would be this pandemic that we're going through right now. The restaurant we had designed, now we're redesigning because buffets are probably not going to be the things that people want to be doing.
Right, right.
So even that tower that we have approved, the interior of it might even get revamped, even though we haven't built it yet. They're always reevaluating how they can make a product better. So
Understood. So it's going up though at this point. Are you looking to go? Is that, how many stories is that? It looks like
4
5 to
stories.
6.
4 stories.
4.
So yeah. So what happens is, commissioners, that Delray has, and you might be familiar with this, they have a program in place what they call you're vested. So again, I explained that, we started it. So we had to have 25% completed back in 2010, which we did. So now everything else is what you call, I don't like using the term grandfathered in.
Lost a reaction to your answer.
It was not a good reaction to my answer.
It says our internet connection is unstable. So maybe it's not Julie's.
No, it's not me. It's like.
Do we have time for maybe one more question? Is anybody out there with a question that can unmute and ask it?
Morning, Jim. This is Sam Ferrari.
Good morning.
Fairly new resident to Delray, a couple of years. I'd like to know from Ocean Properties, what other opportunities do they see for Atlantic Avenue and Delray Beach in general?
Excellent question. And thank you for asking, Sam.
I think, Sam, obviously they've constantly invested in Delray. They have been a huge supporter of everything that's occurred on Atlantic Avenue. From a hotel standpoint, they probably would always say we have too many hotels. They are ones that would love for everybody to just go to their hotel. The other part they do love about, though, the industry is when a hotel goes up and is what they would call comparable to what they're trying to do. I would say the Seagate is a great example of a product that they feel was a great investment in our downtown area. They are looking at other areas to invest in within our Delray area, which obviously makes us feel better. We are in very, very early preliminary stages of doing a corporate headquarters for them. As we had mentioned, they have property up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, but it's talking about bringing everybody to Delray Beach. So when somebody starts making that kind of investment, I think that's a huge support where a big company like that, Delray, is doing the right thing. They have members within their corporation like Tom McMurrian. A lot of you are familiar with him. Tom has been involved in a lot of the downtown planning, the charrettes that we've done over the years. So they've always maintained a partnership with Delray and helped the development of what they feel is a great place to live and work. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would add just one more thing. I know when Rick Concavage was here, that he was very much involved with the drug task force in Delray and the employment of former drug addicts, recovery personnel at the hotel, and they were very happy with that program, and it was very successful. That was again reach out to the community. So with that, it's 8:42. I am going to proceed further on down the agenda and realize that everybody's time is precious, and particularly our public safety people who have many challenges. Chief Sims, I think you're on. I don't see you in the participants, but I think you are. And if you could speak a few moments, I'd appreciate it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just go over some local numbers first. Calls for service have increased from 674 to 712 in the last 2 weeks of the month of May. Crime is down. Actually, crime was down from 525 to 531 by 29.7%. Auto burglaries to unlocked vehicles there was a decrease. The major increase we've had is the domestics went from 17 to 20 in the last 2 weeks of the month of May. But one of the other disturbing stats that I have is the overdose numbers are still up. We had 35 overdoses in May with 11 deaths. So that continues to be a nemesis for our community and county, state, as well as around the country. But as I'm sure all of you are aware of what's taking place, not only locally, but statewide around the world with the protesting. And I'm sure if you've been listening to the media, social media, you have an understanding on where I stand regardless of in regards to what has taken place over the last few weeks. And I stand firm on that belief. And we do here at the Delray Beach Police Department, we strive to do the best we can to treat people with dignity and respect. And we also train our officers, provide the resources for our officers to ensure that they have the proper tools to go out and do the job properly. With that being said, we're going to continue to stand the fight. We've had a few protests here in the last few days. We'll have a few possibly coming up in the next few days. We are planning, we have operation plans in place to manage those protests. So we're preparing as best we can to deal with the circumstances that we're presented with at this given time. So anybody have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Chief Sims,
Question? Oh, sorry.
sorry. I know it's Noreen Payne, and I know a lot of us were there this week at City Hall and walked. And I, as a longtime Delray resident, I mean, I know a lot of us just thank you for your leadership and your words and coming out the way you did with your statement. I mean, we are so grateful for you and your leadership, and thank you so much. And please continue to stay safe and lead the way you're leading all of us. We so appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Noreen, I was going to say something similar to that. I was just so proud of our city and our police. And when I saw Chief Sims in the front line, marching proudly from Pompey Park to the City Hall, I realized what a special city we have. And there are also a lot of police men and women in that march walking. And I talked to them, I said, are you on duty? And they said, no, we're part of the community. We want to be part of the community. We're marching for ourselves and our city. It was a very touching moment.
Yes. We have a great team here. I mean, quite naturally, it's impossible to be perfect, and we're not. So we forever learning, trying to improve. But we have a great team here, a great staff. We have a great police department that continues to do the best we can and try to improve also the best we can.
And thank you. Your fellow chief in public safety, Chief Tomey, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Awesome. So I have some good news. Prior to this pandemic, when we were all meeting in person, I kept telling you that, hey, we're a Class 1 fire department, and in March we're going to go for our accreditation status. And I'm proud to come back to you now to tell you that we were accredited in March. So now your fire department is not only a Class 1 rated fire department, but it's also an internationally accredited fire department. To put that in perspective, there's about 30,000 fire departments in the U.S. Only 284 of those fire departments are accredited, and only 95, less than 100 out of 30,000, are both accredited and have the Class 1. So really excited about that. I didn't know if we were going to make it, but we did, and so we'll be accredited for 5 years, and in fifth year hopefully we'll go back and be reaccredited.
Congratulations.
As far as the pandemic has been going, as you know, we've been doing some homebound testing. So we've been reaching out to our community and our citizens that are homebound that can't make it out to a drive-up testing center or a walk-up testing center. And we've been actually taking our paramedics and going to their homes and actually testing them for the virus and then sending it off to Delray Medical Center to be tested. And we've been partnering with them, and that's where we get our test kits from, is from Delray Medical. And we received about $9,000 in donations from citizens to be able to purchase those at cost from Delray Medical to be able to do this homebound testing program. And to date, we've tested about 75 residents that were unable to make it to a drive-up center. And I'm proud to say all 75 of those were negative. How has the pandemic kind of affected the fire department? As you know, this was unprecedented, right? We've never seen anything like this before. Even with SARS and other pandemics in the past, it was never to this magnitude. So at the very beginning, it was difficult. We were changing our policies and changing our SOGs almost daily, maybe sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. At one point, I had 18 firefighters out in quarantine. And so we had to change something. So we ended up changing the way we responded to our COVID patients. We would get alerted from dispatch that we were responding to a possible COVID patient, and we changed the way we approached that. Since we've done that, we have not had anybody in quarantine. We've only had one person that has actually contracted the coronavirus. We don't think it was tied to work. We think it was tied to his off-duty activities. Right now, our call volume is pretty steady, and we probably run right now. It's slowed down a lot with our COVID patients. We're probably 1 to 3 a day. At one time, we were running probably about 5 to 8 a day. So I'm glad to see that came down. And working really closely with Dr. Gunta at our clinic. She's been absolutely wonderful and has been amazing and been helping us daily with going through this, how we respond and how we, our folks that were quarantined. We've changed the way we work. There's, depending upon where you at in our building at headquarters, you come in a different entrance, whatever's closest to your office. We wear masks while we're visiting other people in the building, and while we're walking around. We take our temperature twice a day. First thing in the morning, everybody's got to come in and get their temperature taken. If their temperature is 100 or above, we send them home. Actually, we take it again to make sure it's that. And then we do a lot of teleconferencing like this, just even within the building. We don't necessarily have in-person meetings anymore. Even in headquarters, we do this teleconferencing. And that's kind of it for my update today. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
I guess you
All
answered
right.
it well, Chief.
Can I make another statement before?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly. Under the circumstances, I mean, I'll be remiss if I don't thank the other agencies or departments within the city of Delray Beach that have assisted us in some of our initiatives and endeavors dealing with these, not only coronavirus, but also the protesting that's taking place. But also must provide kudos to our city government, the commissioners, and the city manager for also allowing us and giving me the ability to also do what's necessary to help make the city safe. So I just needed to say that. So thank you.
Thank you. I want to call on Sergio Piedra from the Discover the Palm Beaches. I understand he has to jump into another 9 o'clock Zoom meeting. So Sergio, if you could speak for a few moments.
Sure thing. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I just want to have to say that our hats are off to Ocean Properties. They're an amazing company. They're one of our best tourism partners, and we appreciate and thank them for the work they're doing down there in Delray for us, and across the county in some of their other properties. We look forward to seeing the new hotel we sell, and this was just even easier. So we love the tourism product of Delray. Just a quick couple notes on tourism. Yes, we have about 90 to 95% of all the hotels reopened. So we're pretty close to being back to where we were just a few months ago. Occupancy is another story. We're kind of in the range of about, give or take, 30 to 35%, depending on what day of the week it is. But that's pretty good. Comparing, we were probably, 10 to 15 points lower just a month and a half ago. And right now, our agency has started to promote not just staycation deals, but Florida resident deals for everybody across the state. Right now, we have about nearly 100 hotels and attractions and things to do participating. They're offering special deals for everybody. Sometimes we have to remind people in the county that, hey, you're a Florida resident. You can actually take, take advantage of these deals. There's no rule that says, you can't be from Delray and stay in a Delray hotel. So I encourage you to go to thepalmbeaches.com to see these deals. This is going to be the focus of our campaign to bring back tourism over the next 3 months to 4 months. Will be staycations and Florida residents. Once we have more airlift at the hotel, at the airport, and the airlines begin, bringing back some of their service, then we can start promoting to the outside world a little bit more. But until then, driving in is the way to go, and in discovering parts of your county that you may have not seen in quite some time. But overall, I think that by the end of the year, we really hope to have occupancy levels above 50% on a regular basis. So I think that'll be a great achievement. But thank you this morning, and keep up the good work, everyone.
Thank you, Sergio. Laura Simon, do you want to talk a little bit about the DDA? Are you on mute, Laura?
I turned my video on, but thank you. Did that the other night. So great to see everyone. Happy Friday, and thank you all for your service. Thank you, Chief Sims and Chief Tommy, for your amazing efforts throughout this entire, I think it's been 90 days of this crisis, and it's continues to continue to be very impressed, and thank you for your leadership and for your guidance throughout all this process. And thank you to the Chamber for your partnership and working with us in the downtown. For the Downtown Development Authority, we've moved. We have new headquarters, and we moved right about 100 yards from our old office, but we have been moving this week. So we are at 350 Southeast 1st Street. So we have a great view of the city market being built. But we also just launched on Wednesday. Our board decided to provide $3,000 of our budget to provide assistance to our small businesses within downtown. So we have launched a grant program of $1,000. We'll award $1,000 a piece to businesses, small businesses, storefronts that are 5 years or older, 25 employees or under, to provide them with $1,000 of grant assistance. And the application, everything is on our website, downtown.com. The applications will go live on the 16th of June. But we have everything as far as the criteria there for the businesses to get prepared to apply, and we'll do a selection and then provide those grants to those businesses within our downtown community. We also are in full planning mode for reopening. As you know, the rest of the state starts in phase 2. We hopefully will be preparing for phase 2, hopefully in the next several weeks, but we don't know when that will be. But we will be meeting with a lot of our businesses, starting through that process, there's a lot of questions around what that looks like. So helping them to prepare and to continuing to prepare their business and guide them through the current phase. So there's a lot of questions that come along the way. We have a restaurant meeting here today clock as we're preparing for restaurant month. Typically we do restaurant week in August. We are actually spacing it out and providing them a month-long time to be more inclusive, and we're also going to be more inclusive of our downtown community as a whole, to really try to drive some extra exposure and revenue, more hotel vacations, and inclusive of that whole month, and get driving of our revenues back to our community. Few other things that we are also working with our restaurants too. As you know, there's been a lot of discussion around the street closure and assistance and helping them in different ways, but really working with them to find out what their needs are and how we can be of assistance, as well as within our other downtown merchants. So we've got a few meetings coming up this week, as well as finalizing our tourism marketing plan too. So we'll be launching that in the next 2 weeks too. So,
Laura, could you briefly say what the difference is between phase 1 and phase 2, so we can realize what's going to change when we go into phase 2?
sure, and hopefully Chief Tommy can back me up on this too, or Chief Sims. But phase 2 right now would lead us into a set of what I understand is retail would be able to be open at full occupancy. Dine eat restaurants at 75% occupancy. Theaters, I believe, will reopen, and attractions will be able to reopen as well. And I think those are the main differences. Is there anything else that I missed, Chief? Do you know of? But I do know that the restaurants will go to 75%, which is a big number.
Yes, the movie theaters are 50%, and then bars are also open at 50%.
50%, correct.
Okay,
And that's standalone bars will be allowed to open up at 50%, and the bars at restaurants will be open at 50%. So bar seating right now is not, and congregating is not allowed at a restaurant.
Any questions for Laura? Another complete presentation, no questions.
Thank you.
Okay, Elizabeth, I think you're responsible for the whole city in your presentations. Jason King is not on.
Hi. I have a list of the active projects that have been submitted since the last meeting. There was really only one. It's called the 1177. It's a 16-unit, 2 or 3-story condo building over on George Bush Boulevard. So I have a little handout, but I don't know how to get it to you guys.
Can you share your screen?
I could probably do that. Let me see. Open it first. Sorry. Do you have any questions about what's going on in planning and zoning?
Gary always has questions about planning and zoning.
No, I don't. Oh yes, somebody says, I am a Pennsylvania girl. I am a Steelers fan. Sorry, 2 seconds.
Well, you could probably share that with us. And
I got it.
You do have it? Okay.
All right, so share screen. That work? That work? Yes?
Yeah,
No?
you're sharing.
Okay, so here's the renderings of the building. It's over on George Bush Boulevard. Like I said, there's an existing office building there that they would be proposing to tear down, and then this would go into place. So it would have to be accompanied by a rezoning application, but that was just submitted last week. So
Anything else you want to tell us about the city?
We're just getting ready to open up on Monday, so that we have the building department fully open to the public again, and just getting back to normalcy.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I think also the CRA, Christine Tibbs.
Hi, everyone. So I have a few updates. We have an upcoming virtual workshop on June 18th at 10 a.m. It's going to be with the BH3 management that's doing the development on the southwest 600, 800 blocks on the Southwest Atlantic Boulevard there. So they're going to be giving an overview of the project and where they are right now in the timeline. So that's going to be June 18th. Then on June 23rd is our regular board meeting. That's going to be at 4 p.m., also virtual. The first budget workshop will also be at that meeting. In terms of projects, all of our projects are still proceeding. Of interest is the 98 Northwest 5th Avenue commercial and office space, and the 95th Southwest 5th Avenue commercial and office space is still proceeding through the planning process. Other updates, the freebie service, point-to-point service, reopened on June 1st to the public. There's updates on our social media pages. They took a number of safety precautions given what's happening. They're limiting 4 riders per vehicle. They have safety shields separating the driver and the passengers. They are wiping down the seats. So they're checking temperatures of the drivers. So they are taking a number of safety precautions, making sure that the passengers and the drivers are being safe and keeping healthy. We are still actively participating in the Business Assistance Partnership with the DDA, the city, and the chambers. In terms of the other services and programs, the Downtown Connect is still not operating. We will give updates as to when that will resume service. The Green Market will be an item on our next CRA board meeting, which is June 23rd. At this time, the summer market is not operational, but we are discussing options, and that discussion is on the June 23rd agenda. The Arts Warehouse, we also are starting to look at how to safely read to the public. And once we finalize those procedures, we will announce a reopening date.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Christine? So Stephanie, I think we turn to you to wrap everything up and talk about the chamber update and your exciting announcement about the Chairman's Club.
Okay, I'll make it quick because I'm supposed to be on that county call at 9 o'clock as well. So I'll be fast for everybody. So I'm just going to let you know what's going on with the chamber. Next week, we're keeping all of our programs running virtually, which is great, but the offices are also open if you want to wear a mask. We've sanitized everything. We're able to accommodate small groups like we did this morning of maybe 10 to 12 people in the large conference room. June 9th, we've got a lunch. Our Lunch and Learn webinars are going to continue weekly for the foreseeable future. We're already stacked up for the next month or so with subjects. This week is going to be Nancy Curtin from KBK Wealth Management, and the topic is financial recovery. It's action steps for your solid financial future. So I think that's a very timely topic, and I'm definitely zooming into that one. Delray Morning Live is on June 10th. We're going to be talking about the virtual Delray Affair, which is going to launch June 12th through 20th. So if you're missing your favorite vendor and you couldn't buy your dog leash, Stacy Gear, she was talking about that the other day, you can go and visit your favorite vendor from June 12th through June 20th online. So you'll hear more about that next week. On Chairman's Club, we're very excited for the Chairman's Club meeting on the 10th, and that's at 11:30. Representative Lois Frankel is going to be zooming in from Washington. So we're taking some questions questions ahead of time, and we'll be able to talk to her real time, just like we're doing today on June 10th at the Chairman's Club at 11:30. On June 11th, the real estate roundtable will be taking place, and that's very exciting. That's I think it's going to be at 10 a.m. Dorothy Jacks, the property appraiser, will be on. She'll be talking about what's happening during the COVID crisis. So that's exciting. And again, June 12th through 20th is the virtual Delray Fair. That'll be a lot of fun. Also for the summer and beyond, we're going to reignite our campaign, Keep Locals Afloat. It's literally hashtag Keep Locals Afloat. We did some great photos of different locals, including Noreen in high heels, a dress, and pearls in the pool on a float to remind people. We got some great visuals to shop local, especially, and we're going to try to get some coverage of this. We're working with Discover the Palm Beaches and the Florida Chamber to get some, hopefully, statewide coverage for it to encourage people to visit Delray Beach and help all of our businesses. So please feel free to stop by the chamber and pick up a float and take a picture in front of your business with it. I think Jeff Dash did that yesterday. So our next meeting is going to be the second Friday, because the first Friday would be July 5th. So our next meeting will be on July 10th, the second Friday, and Jordana Jarjura from Menon is going to be speaking. That's our guest speaker. So that's all we have today. Over to you, Jim.
I think that's a wrap. Does anybody have any specific questions that they need to ask? We almost finished by 9, and I do want to thank Stephanie and Angel for setting all this up, and of course, our guest speakers this morning, who I think they were terrific, and I've been getting a couple of texts that seem to agree with that. So thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, buddy.